So today we're going to discuss something that, in my opinion, it's everywhere, which is conflict. We see conflict in between countries. We see conflict in communities. We see conflict in the family, and we see conflict within ourselves. So it's a big thing to talk about it, okay? So let's begin tonight by defining conflict. What is it to you guys? What is conflict? Can you try to put it in a word? You what?
Separation from source, from the God.
Separation. I like that. What else? But what is it? If you can. Huh? Trouble. Okay. Disagreement. Yes. Okay. So when we look at the dictionary, it says that conflict, it's a bad disagreement. Because you can disagree with somebody, you can disagree with you, and but when you have a conflict, it's a bad disagreement. Are you guys with me? Okay, just to define what it is. And another thing that before we begin, we have to allow ourselves to reflect upon the consequences of conflict. Okay? There is a saying that everything that you want to transform in your life, the first step you have to do is evaluate the consequences that this affects your life. So conflict, it's not something that is pleasure, like you don't feel joy in conflict. It's something that that it causes pain and suffering to all of us. Are we on the same page here? Okay? So every time you have a conflict, doesn't matter if the conflict is within you, it's with a family member, is with a friend or a community, or even politics, okay? It does not bring you anything, let's say, positive. It's usually something that bother us, but it goes beyond that. It's something that not only cause pain, but also cause suffering. Pain is something that happens right there. Suffering is something that you carry around with you, just to make that clear. So it's a problem. It's a huge problem, okay? And when we see that conflict can cause pain, and then we start to turn our attention in how can we live our lives without conflict. Is that possible? Believe it or not, it's imprinted in our unconscious mind because we've been living in conflict for centuries. Be careful with that. We got used to that. Okay? And we think it's normal. You see a lot of people talking about, or self-books that say how to deal with conflict. They don't even talk about the possibilities that you can live your life without conflict. And we can. But why is this message not spread? this message that we can actually live without a conflict. Because for some people, the conflict, it's something that they use to gain power. And he's right. The cause of the conflict, the root cause of a conflict. And every time that we want to try to get rid of something, we need to find the root cause of it, right? And we are, because of Google and the internet, we want straight answers for everything, and so easy. It's now we go to the doctor's appointment, and you say to the doctor, I have a headache, here's a medicine for you. People are not looking into the causes. But if you find the cause of the headache, you get rid of the causes. If you work just with the consequence of the headache, you're putting a Band-Aid on it. See the difference, right? So if you have diabetes and you don't know, and then for some reasons you're losing your sight because of diabetes, if you don't take care of the diabetes problems, no matter how good of an eye doctor you go, it's not going to solve your problem. So we always have to go to the root of the cause if we wanted to improve or if you want to transform. So the root cause of conflict. So let's see, conflict, we already know it's not healthy, it's not good, doesn't feel good, okay? And we wanted to not deal with it, but we don't want to live with conflict anymore. Everybody on the same page? Okay, so we have to find the root causes over there. And the root causes of conflict is a division. It's a division. So every time that people are divided, there is conflict on it. And that's why there is some people that they want us to live in conflict, because they need us to live in conflict, because this is how they gain power. We talk about this, right? How does politician wins elections? Through conflict. Okay? So there is not a possibility that a message that said you can live without conflicts, let's work together. No, we're going to make you, okay, more divided than you think you are already. And that's why we have to be careful with the manipulation that it's out there. How many times do we lose friends? Or we lose our energy talking about politicians? And what is the division in politicians? One side is good, one side is bad, right? This is how we see it. The problem is that everybody thinks that they're on a good side. Nobody thinks that they are on a bad side. And you're not going to convince the other person that they are on a bad side and you are on a good side. Because the main cause of conflict is duality. It's duality. We want to see things black and white. We want to divide the world in good or bad. And we are making this, plus the system, it's also putting fire on this, because they need this conflict. They need the conflict to gain power. And we are living in conflicts constantly. I want to bring something up, how this dividing, the division and the duality comes in play with judgment. Every time we judge someone or we judge a situation, we are feeding the duality. Because at the moment of judgment, what happens? I divide it between good and bad, good or evil, right or wrong. And I feed the duality. I feed. We constantly are doing that. We're dividing ourselves. The conflict is starting in the family. Why? I'm me, my husband, it's my husband. We don't see ourselves as one, as together, as part of source. We see us as individuals that are fighting from their own good. And we start with the competition and comparison and everything else. That's all duality. That's all duality. So if we want to live a life without conflict, we have to step away from judging. Remember that. You don't only judge others, you also judge yourself. Judgment doesn't pay, because when you think you're judging someone, 2 hours later, 1 hour later, 1 minute later, you're judging yourself. There is no way that you can do only judging others. You also start to judging yourself. So it's a bad habit that causes conflict. The conflict comes everywhere because we're constantly judging. Judging. And judgment is division. We're dividing right there. When we judge, we're dividing. Okay? I'm going to talk about Florida because I don't know if that is a problem in any other state in the United States. But recently, I'm just going to give you an example. Recently, I was helping my older son to get car insurance. And when I look at the prices for car insurance in Florida, I was like, what is going on? And what happened was, he had a little accident, nothing too bad. I think it was 3 years ago or something like that. And then 6 months ago, he had a speeding ticket. So I'm not kidding. I'm going to tell you guys, his insurance payment are $853 a month. Yes, $853 a month. And that is not because I didn't shop around. We went everywhere, and that was the cheapest we can get. Because look at how the insurance company works. You are obligated to pay your car insurance. You have to, otherwise you lose your license. But if you use it, in the case of an accident, you get punished by the insurance company. And they raise your price to the sky. But what about the other people that are paying every month and don't have any car accidents? They're still making a lot of money. But we, as a people, we feel so divided that we think that we have no voice. And we accept it, and we go there, and we pay, and we shut up. You know why? Because we're too busy arguing and judging. and selecting what is the right side or the wrong side. So we don't come together as people to go ahead and say, enough with this. I won't have insurance. Look at this. Collective thinking. But guess what the politicians everywhere in the world are so afraid of the people getting to know the power that they have in their hands. So they have to keep us dividing because then we fight with each other. That's the conflict. We fight with each other and they keep us busy doing that. And we play the game of the manipulation. And here we go, fighting over politics that we never knew. Men that we don't even know. They don't even care. I'm sorry, but they don't care. They make you believe that they care about you, but they don't. At the moment that they step into power, they don't care. They think about power only. But we go and we start arguing with people with conflict. We argue on the internet with people that we don't even know, that has a different opinion than us. And then we go with conflicts and conflicts and conflicts and conflict and conflict. And then that goes inside of our home also. Because instead of sometimes of hearing the other person that we supposedly love, we think that the other person is attacking us. We cannot say anything because you don't feel as a whole with that person. So we begin conflicts at home when we begin to criticize each other all the time, and all the time. And the person is not going to take the criticism well because she doesn't think that you want the best of her. She thinks, or he thinks, that you are attacking that person. And when you feel attacked, the other person wants to defend themselves. See, I wonder what is going to be the time that we actually say, enough with this. Enough with this. Enough with this conflict. I'm not going to be allowed to be manipulated anymore. Enough. So where do I start? Where do I start? I have to start somewhere. And it doesn't do me any good to know that I am part, that I'm source. It's not good enough. If you know, I guarantee you, everybody will raise their hands and say, no, I'm part of a source. But you know that. Knowing is only here. You have to be able to do something else. You have to be able to get involved with people. And the only way that you can get involved with people is stopping with the habit of judgment, that it's not only through the mouth. Most of the judgment that you do is in your mind. only you know what you're doing. And one of the problems that we have is when we start to identify, thinking about this, identify with everything that we are not. Can you guys get this? So, am I this body? No. Right? I'm using this body, but I'm not this body. Am I this mind? No. Right? But what happened to it? I identify with the mind. I identify with the emotion. I identify with my body. So at the moment that I identify with those things, I become them. So the problem with conflict is that it's my family, my son, my daughter, my job, my country, my people. See the identification right there? You're becoming that. And the identification of this will also cause conflict. That's why you're having conflict with your kids or with your friends or with anybody else. It's so important to you that you lose contact with the source that you are. So you have no access to the source because you're too busy identifying with things that you are not. You know that you are not your body, but you are 100% identified with your body. You know that you're not your mind, but you are 100% identified with the thoughts that are generated by the mind. But you still know that you are source. How good is that to know? So we have to stop with the process of identification. Identification generates attachments. And attachment generates conflict. The big question is, are you willing to stop with the judgment? Do you feel the necessity of doing that? Did that make sense to you guys? Okay. So if we want to really work on the root cause so we can live our lives conflict-free, it's a possibility. The other day I was listening to somebody that was doing a speech, and they asked this question. They asked the person, what does it feel like? How do I know if I'm enlightened or not? And the answer was, when you have no conflict, you are enlightened. Oh. We are all searching for that, at least people that are here. Right? So in order to do that, and also by evaluating the problems, the consequences of conflict, I don't want to be able to manage the conflict. I want to be able to live my life free of conflict. out of the prison of the conflict. But in order to do that, I'll have to change. I have to transform. I have to stop with the habit of judging. Are we willing to do that? Imagine the price that we pay living like that. It's a huge price. It's a huge burden that we carry around us. Are we ready to give up on that? So I want you to ask yourself that question. Am I ready to give up judging? Not because it's wrong. See duality. When Jesus says, don't judge, so you don't be judged. So when you are trying to work with a judgment problem, you're going from the place that you want to do the right thing. It's not an urge that is strong enough. It's got to be deeper than that. It's got to be deeper than that. You have to go within. And then you have to make up your mind and say, this judgment business is not taking me anywhere, plus it's causing me suffering and pain. And I don't want nothing to do with that anymore. So every time I catch myself judging, I'm not going to feed that energy. I'm just going to sit and observe and say, here we are, judging. That's not important. It's a habit. I don't want to do that anymore. Same thing with when we are judging ourselves. Same thing. This is a type of decision that no one can make it for you. No one. And no one can convince yourself to do that. Do you think I have the power to convince you that judgment is a bad business? No. You know why? Because you're going to go home, and tomorrow you're going to wake up and you're going to continue with your life. Oh, I heard a little bit of a nice thing that they say about judgment. It's not going to touch you. It won't. I don't have this power. You do. How do you convince yourself? How do you convince yourself that you need to stop? It's on you. It's on you. Only you can do that. Only you. And do the exercise of, if you're willing to do it, if you really convince yourself that you will live better, give yourself a chance. Give yourself that chance. And don't identify yourself with anything that you are not. And if you cannot figure it out who you are, start figuring out what you are not. It's easy. Am I this body? No. Am I this mind? No. Am I this personality? No. Enough. At least I don't know what I'm not. And when I am convinced that I don't need to identify with things that I am not, there is another path that forms. But in order for you to build that path, you need to be unhappy with the path that you're taking right now. You have to recognize that that might be not the best way to live my life. Maybe there were better ways for me to live my life. You have to start asking this question. Unless you 100% enjoy, you're completely enjoy with life. Are you? No. You still have your conflict. You still have your pain. And that's what it takes. It's not that hard, trust me. It's not that hard. People say it's so difficult, it's so difficult, it's so difficult, it's so difficult. If you believe that it's difficult, it will become difficult. But I'm telling you, it's not difficult. How hard it is for you to stop judging if you decided to do that. It's doable. If you decided, I'm not judging anymore, are you capable of doing that? Huh? Yes? Okay, right? So it's not hard. What is hard is we're trying to transform ourselves doing exactly what we've been doing. That won't work. That is difficult. Actually, I think that's even impossible to do it. You want to keep doing the same thing, thinking about the same thing, taking your life the way you did it for 50 years, 40 years. You want to keep doing that. But you also want to enlighten. You also want to transform. You also want to be happier. You also want to be enjoy. That's hard. But when you know what you have to do, and you say, this is what I'm doing. I'm not judging anymore. And every time I catch myself judging, I will have the consciousness, the awareness of it. I say, no, not doing that. Awareness, awareness, awareness. And every time that we are too identified with the person, with the body, with things that it's not me, I also will have awareness of that. How hard can this be? I'll tell you, piece of cake. Easy, busy. Easy, 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 easy. We just need to start. Any questions? Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, it sounds easy to basically stop judging, but we live in society, and society judges all the time.
Yes.
So basically, to detach from that, we need to leave society. What are we going to do?
No, you cannot. You don't have to leave society.
Because wherever you go, people judge everywhere.
Yes,
it's
but
a way of living.
Yes, it is. And do you have to live like everybody else?
No.
Okay, that's it. You have to get out. You see, there was one thing that I always question myself. We always think that there is something wrong with us, that we are the bad guy in life, that we're not so special, and we never question the system. We never question the society itself. Because when you question the beliefs that goes around the society, and you don't want to be part of that anymore, it's easy to get out because you start to see them with different eyes. But until you agree with the system, you agreed with society, you wanted to live your life, okay, upon their standards. They are telling you what it means to be successful, what it means to be pretty, what it means to be intelligent, what it means to that. So they're saying everything, and you believe in that. You know why? Because you want to be part of that. You want to be part of that. So at the same time, you are feeding the system. And when you start to question the system, and you don't allow the system to tell you anymore if you are successful or not, if you are pretty or not, if you are intelligent or not, you start to say, this is, no. I'm not going to live with those standards anymore. I'm free to live my life.
Right.
Judgment, it starts, okay, in your mind. So when you decided to not judge anymore, society won't know this. You probably will have a better magnetism, and people will like you more, maybe. But no one will notice. And if you're going to a party and there's constantly judgment on that party, you don't have to say, you know what, guys, let's not judge. No, you can just keep your mouth shut. You don't have to be the moral person that's going to correct everybody, because that's annoying. You have to understand that whatever the spirituality you're trying to achieve is within you. And you don't have to show it to anybody. Because to show how spiritual you are, it's also to impress society and to impress people. And when you don't have that necessity, you don't have to show off. You can still live in a society with a loving heart. And it doesn't matter if nobody else is loving. Because you are. Because what you're trying to do is access the source and live your source. You don't want to leave the persona. You don't want to leave your ego. You don't want to live with conflicts. You have something else wonderful that is waiting for you. You just have to access.
And that's a very good tip.
Yeah.
Just listen, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it.
You don't have to. You don't want to be that person. Yes.
I mean, I've read a lot of things, and if you look at it in the angle of when, or the way I kind of look at it, is when I'm judging somebody, I'm judging myself.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're at peace with yourself, where whatever, like she was saying, you know, what you base your success on, what you base who you are on, and you project that out from inside of you, then it just, none of that stuff matters, because you don't care what other people think of you, because you're good. You're good. You know, like, I'm good where I'm at,
and you really are.
What you dress or what you do,
Yeah.
you know, it's just the people that are the right people will be your people. You know, be the people around you, and the rest of the people, is, you know, that stuff just doesn't matter.
And you really are okay. You really are wonderful. You really have the source within you.
I feel like if I'm going to judge somebody, I don't really like myself very much.
Yes, you do. Because the judgment, if you look at judging, it's a conflict that you have within you. You judge so much because you are competing with people, and by judging someone on a negative way, it makes you feel better than other people. And you're not better than anybody, you're not worse than anybody. You see? But this is how the mind works. And you are working with a mind right now that it was built based on culture, your parents, your teachers, the experience. You're not even choosing what to think, what to judge, and this is something that we can talk about the next time. But we are trying to hold, to something and some beliefs that are not even yours. It's beliefs from your grandfather, your mother, your teachers. Because we don't raise free thinkers anymore. We don't raise, society is not interested in people that can think and reflect and observe. We lost the power of observation, the biggest power that we can have. We lost it. Look at the biggest scientists back then in a year. How do they connect with him? How do they get into a conclusion of something? Is by observing. No one to observe anymore. They want you to teach you this is black and this is white. Look at the personality that we judge. We go so quick to tell this person's a good person, that person's a bad person. But that person is involved, and that person is not even thinking on their own. Neuroscience is telling us this. It's proving. They're so caught up in the system and their own mind that they don't even have choices anymore. Do we want to be that? We need to ask questions. Anybody else? Questions? Comments? No? All right. Thank you.